Welcome to a new lesson. In this lesson, we'll be multiplying polynomials. Let's take a look at our first example. We're going to be using distributive property to multiply two polynomials together. So the first example is that we're going to expand and simplify the first polynomial by the second polynomial. When we do this, we're going to be applying a distributive property. This means that the first term, 2h, is going to multiply with all the other terms in the other polynomial. This means 2h squared, or 2h times h squared is 2h cubed, plus 2 times 3 is 6, and h times h is h squared. Then 2h times negative 4 is negative 8h. Now we're going to distribute by multiplying the second term by everything else in the second polynomial. 5 times h squared is positive 5h squared. 5 times 3h is 15h. And 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. So we have expanded. Now we're going to simplify by collecting like terms. The way we look at like terms is we look at the variable h and its exponent that they are matching. For example, 6h squared and 5h squared are matching. So is the negative 8h and the 15h. It's good practice to rewrite the equation, or the expression in this case, so that they are matching or next to each other. So we're going to rearrange the equation. So I'm going to move the h squares together and the h's as well together, copying the 20 behind. Now it is more clear what to do with these operations. How do we combine these like terms? 6h squared plus 5h squared. Just think of adding 6 and 5. That's 11. And we copy h squared. How about negative 8 and 15? Well, it's just like negative 18 plus 15. Negative 8 plus 15 is positive 7. And don't forget the h. As well as the negative 20 has to be copied. And this is our answer. Let's take a look at part B. In this multiplication, we're going to use the same procedure, except now we have 3 terms to consider in the first polynomial. So let's take a look at 3f squared. So we have to multiply this by each and every term in the second polynomial. Negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. And f squared times f squared is f to the power of 4, 2 plus 2. Just recall, if we multiply f squared by f squared, we're adding the exponents, therefore we get f to the power of 4. Then we'll continue on multiplying. Negative 3 times negative 1, f, is positive 3, and f squared times f is f cubed. Negative 3f squared times negative 6 is positive 18, and don't forget the f squared. So we're done with that term. The next term we're going to multiply 3f times 4f squared, and that is 12. And f times f squared is f cubed. Then we're going to multiply 3f times negative f. Negative times a positive is a negative, and 3 times 1 is 3. F times f is f squared. The last one we're going to multiply is 3f times negative 6, and that's negative. Well, 3 times 6 is 18, and positive times a negative is a negative, so it's negative 18, and we have an f. We have last term remaining. So we have negative 2 times 4f squared, and that will give us negative 8f squared. Then we're going to multiply negative 2 by negative f, which is positive 2f, and negative 2 times negative 6 is positive 12. So we've done expansion. Now we need to simplify. But first, let's see which terms are like, which terms are similar. So the 3f cubed and the 12f cubed are the same type of term, and as well as the f squares are the same type. We also have the f's as the same. So now what we're going to do is we're going to collect them. We're going to bring them together. We're going to rewrite negative 12f to the power of 4. And now in descending order, that means we're going to the powers that are lower than 4. We have 3f cubed, as well as negative 3f, 12, positive 12f cubed. It's good practice to give yourself a little check mark that these terms have been written down to the next line of the expression. Let's continue on. Now we're going to the squares. We have 18f squares, so that's done. We also have negative 3f squared. Okay, give you that check mark. And we also have one more, negative 8f squared. We're moving on to the single f's variables. We have negative 18f, a little check mark, and positive 2f, another check mark. So that takes care of all the variables except for one thing, the constant term, which is called, that's what it's called, and it's the 12. So now we arranged it. Now we're going to simplify. We still have negative 12f to the power of 4. That doesn't change. But now we have a 3 and a 12 of f cubed. 3 plus 12 is 15. F cubed. For f squares, here's our terms. We have 18 minus 3, which is negative 15. 15. 15 minus 8 is 7. So we have 7f squared. So that's done. We could give myself little check marks for those. The last variables are negative 18f plus 2f. And negative 18 plus 2 is negative 16. And don't forget the f. Copy down to 12. We can't reduce any further, we can't simplify any further, and therefore this is your answer. Let's take a look at a different example. In this example, we're going to be focusing on this power of 2. What does this mean? It's very important that a lot of mistakes are thought to occur like this. A lot of students feel that they want to power both these terms together and give the answer of 4r squared plus 25. This is incorrect. You cannot do this. So I'm going to show you how to do this question correctly. What this square means is that there are actually two polynomials multiplying each other. However, these polynomials are exactly the same. They're exactly the same. So whenever you see this 2 outside the bracket, this means that there are two identical polynomials that need to be multiplied. Once you've written down, we have to follow the distribution rules. The first term has to multiply with each and every term in the second polynomial. 2r times 2r is 4r squared. 2 times 2 is 4, r times r is r squared. Then 2r times 5 is 10r. We're done with that part. Then we'll multiply 5 with 2r plus 10r is the answer. And the last term is 5 times 5 is 25. We add 25 to it. So we've done expansion. Now what we're going to do is we are going to collect like terms. We don't have to rewrite this expression because 10 r's are next to each other. So we have 4r squared plus 20r, 10 plus 10 is 20, and copy down to 25. And this is our solution, our answer. Let's continue on with question B. The only difference with question B is that from all the other examples that we've done thus far is that it has two letters, x and y, two variables. Don't let that trick you. We're still going to use the same type of operation as we've done before, the same type of procedure. So again, we're going to multiply everything with the first term. The first term is going to multiply everything in second polynomial. So 3 times 4 is 12, and x times x is x squared. Then we're going to multiply 3x by negative 3y. Negative 3 times 3 is 9. X times y is just xy. Variables cannot, when multiplied, cannot change their exponents. They're different variables. So we just write x and y. And the last multiplication, 3x times 5 is 15x. We're going to continue on by multiplying it by the second term, and we're going to use the green, with everything else in the second polynomial. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8, and y times x is same thing as yx, or xy. The order does not matter, but usually we put it in alphabetical order when we multiply different variables of different letters. Then we multiply negative 2y with negative 3y. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. Negative times negative is a positive. 2 times 3 is 6. Y times y is y squared. Then negative 2 times positive 5 is going to be positive times a negative. It's negative 10y. So now we've expanded it. Now we have to see if we could collect like terms. Let's see which are like terms. We know that the x and y are like terms because they have the same letters and the same exponents. So let's collect them. So we have 12x squared, so we'll check off. Then we're going to collect the 9xy and put it right next to negative 8xy. So we'll give ourselves a little check for those two. Then let's bring the x to 15x. A little check for yourself. And negative 10y. And the 6y squared. Order for us now doesn't matter. Later on you're going to learn the specific order for this polynomial expression. So let's collect the like terms in the second line. We have 12x squared, and a negative 9 and negative 8 becomes negative 17xy. And everything else is just copied down because there are no other terms like them. So they just get copied. That's y. And this is our answer. Let's take a look at the next example. We're going to expand and simplify the following polynomial. So there is multiplication and there's of course also addition. So use the same rules as before. I'm going to expand by multiplying each and every term. The first term by each and every term in the second term, polynomial. So we have 2c times c is c squared, 2c squared. 2c times 5 is 10c. Then we're going to multiply negative 3 by c, which is negative 3c. And then negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. Then we're going to add 3. And the next step is that we're going to multiply, because that's what we need to do because of BEDMAS. We need to keep on multiplying. The next polynomial. So again, c by negative 3c, which is negative 3c squared. Then c by 1, which is 1 times c is just 1, plus 1c. And then negative 3 by negative 3c, that's positive 9c. And negative 3 by positive 1, which is negative 3. Notice I'm keeping the bracket because of this 3 right here. It's very important that you keep this bracket because that 3 has to multiply with each and everything in the bracket. Let's continue answering this question, and we could combine like terms. For example, right here, 10c and negative 3c. So c squared, 10 minus 3 is positive 7, c minus 15. Sometimes the tendency is that students want to add this negative 15 plus 3, but we cannot do that simply because there is an operation of addition and then multiplication. Multiplication has to be done first, and then we could add. So first, even before we multiply, we should do something what's inside the bracket. You see, we can combine the 1c plus 9c. So let's copy negative 3c squared. 1 plus 9 is 10c minus 3. Now since we simplified the bracket, the next step would be to multiply that 3 with each and every term inside the bracket. So let us do that right now. I'm going to recopy the terms that we are not using in this part of the operation. And now we're going to multiply 3 by negative 3c squared, which is not positive 9, but negative 9c squared. Plus 3 times 10 is 30c, and 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Now I notice I dropped the bracket. The bracket is not needed anymore because we already expanded with multiplication of 3. So now expansion now is complete. Now we have to simplify. Let's bring all the common terms together, and let's recognize them first. We have 2c squares and negative 9c squared. So let's bring them together. 2c squared minus 9c squared, and give yourself little check marks that you've used those. Also, we know that there is a c terms, or c terms, and let's bring those together as well. So we have positive 7c and positive 30c. So those are done. The last terms are the negative 15 and the negative 9. Those are just constances, and there's no variables attached to them. So let's bring them as well. Negative 15 and negative 9. So we just collected them. So give yourself little check marks. And now we could add them together. All these common terms. So 2c minus 9c squared, so 2c squared minus 9c squared is negative 7c squared. And plus 7c plus 30c is 37c. And negative 15 minus 9 is negative 24. And here is your answer. It's a lot of work for this question. You would probably ask yourself, well, okay, well, it's a lot of work. It's probably easy to make a mistake. How can you find out if you've done something correctly, if this is the right answer? How could you check? I want to give you a very quick way to find out how to check if your answer is correct. So I erased all the entire solution and just left you with the question and with the answer. So I want to show you how this question should link to the answer. So what we're going to do is we're going to substitute a value for C. Usually that value will be 1. So let's substitute that in. So 2 times 1 minus 3, bracket 1 plus 5, plus 3, 1 minus 3, negative 3 times 1, and plus 1. And see what we'll get. So 2 times 1 is 2, 2 minus 3 is negative 1, 1 plus 5 is 6, or you could just punch this in calculator, that's fine, plus 3, inside the first bracket, 1 minus 3 is negative 2, 3 times 1 is, sorry, negative 3 times 1 is negative 3, and negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. And we just multiply, negative 1 times 6 is negative 6, plus 3 times negative 2 is negative 6, negative 6 times negative 2 is positive 12. And 6, negative 6 plus 12 is just 6. Now, if we plugged in C equals 1 into this equation, if this expression, it should also give us the same value. If it doesn't, we are in trouble. So let's see if, in fact, if we plug in C into this, the answer, do we get 6 also? Okay, so let's see. Negative 7, and we'll plug in 1, and it's squared, plus 37 times 1 minus 24. Do we get 6? So negative 7 times 1 is squared is just 1. Negative 7 times 1 squared is just negative 7. 37 times 1 is just 37, and negative 24. And negative 7 plus 37 is 30. 30 minus 24 is 6. Ah! We get the same answer of 6. They do check out. And more likely or not, these two expressions are correct. That means your answer is correct. I'm going to do one more example like this for practice. So we're going to expand, and we're going to simplify this. So it's a little bit more complicated. It's a little bit lengthier, but let's go. So 3x times 2x, that's 6x squared. Then 3x times negative 4 is negative 12x. Continue on. Y times 2x is 2xy. y times negative 4 is negative 4y. Continue on. Negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x. Negative 1 times negative 4 is positive 4. And minus, now don't forget that 3x plus 2y squared is the same thing as 3x plus 2y times itself. And I'm just going to rewrite it while looking which terms are common. In this case, I've noticed that the 12 and the negative 2x are common, so I'm going to put them together. 6x squared minus 12x minus 2x. And then give myself a little check marks so that I've used them. And recopy everything else, 2xy. So I've used it, give myself a little check mark. I also have a y, negative 4y, check mark, and a 4 plus 4. And now I'm going to expand, but I'm going to keep the bracket, the multiplication of these two identical polynomials. Again, 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 3x times 2y is 6xy. 2y times 3x is alphabetical order 6xy. And the last thing I'm going to multiply is 2y by 2y. It's 4y squared. Notice I'm keeping the bracket. Also recognize that these are identical like terms. I'm going to simplify this. I'm going to recopy everything else, word for word, or letter for word, letter, symbol for symbol, and 9x squared, 6xy plus 6xy is 12xy plus 4y squared. Copy, keeping still the bracket. Here is the tricky part. You see this negative sign right here? I'm going to make it in red. Really, what it means is that there is a negative 1, or negative 1 right there, and it has to be multiplied with everything inside the bracket. So I'm going to recopy everything else, and now change basically everything to an opposite sign. That's what negative 1 multiplication does. Negative 1 times 9 is negative 9 x squared, don't forget. Negative 1 times positive 12 is negative 12xy, and negative 1 times positive 4y is negative 4y squared. So now we have a huge expression. We need to combine like terms. I should have combined this term earlier, but I didn't. It's not really a mistake, so let's fix the mistake now. Also now we have no other x's. Do we have any xy's? Yes, we do. We have xy's. We have 2xy here and right there. And we also have some x squares. I'll use a different color right there. So let's combine those like terms. So we have 6x squared minus 9x squared. Then we have some x's, so negative 12x minus 2x. So let's do a little check mark for ourselves so that we covered those guys. And then we have some x and y's. We have 2xy and we have negative 12xy. So give yourself a little check mark. And then we have a y, so negative 4y. Give yourself a check mark so everything's used up. Negative 4y squared. And a 4, positive 4, constant. So everything is used up. We put them together now. 6 minus 9 is negative 5x squared. Negative 12x minus 2x is negative 14x. And 2xy minus 12xy is negative 10xy. And recopy everything else because there's no other like terms. And also, of course, you should probably do a little check marks so that you've used all of those terms. And this is your